The forbidden lab, the sky over Zinara 9 was always dark. Red lightning flashed in the distance, lighting up the ruined buildings and broken towers of a long-lost war. Acid rain fell gently over the planet, burning into old metal, leaving steam rising from the ground. Deep inside a destroyed city, a young alien girl ran barefoot through the rubble, breathing hard. Her name was Zinara. She was small, with soft purple skin and glowing blue eyes. Her long green hair was tangled and wet. Her clothes were torn, barely, covering her thin frame. Chains still hung from her wrists and ankles, broken but not forgotten. She had escaped just hours ago from a slave caravan, beaten, starved, and used like a tool. Now, she was alone. Her feet bled as she moved through the sharp rocks, but she didn't stop. Her old master would already be searching for her. If they found her again, she would die, or worse. She needed shelter, food, and water. But this place was dead. No one had lived here for years. Then, she saw it. A metal door, half buried under a collapsed tower. The sign above it had alien and human writing, faded and scratched. One word still shone clear: restricted. Zinara didn't care. She pushed the door and it creaked open. A dark tunnel led underground. She hesitated, then stepped in. The air was cold and smelled like old chemicals. The lights flickered above, showing shattered machines, broken screens, and empty lockers. She wandered deeper, coughing from the dust. The floor was cracked, but stable. She found a table covered in small bottles, some glowing, some broken. One was still sealed. It was clear and had a blue liquid inside. A label in human script read, Serum X7, Combat Enhancer. Not for civilian use. Zinara couldn't read it. Her throat burned. She hadn't had clean water in days. She looked around. No movement, no sound, only silence. She opened the bottle and drank. At first, nothing happened. Then, heat. A wave of warmth spread from her chest to her limbs. Her fingers twitched, her spine tingled. Her heart began to beat faster, then faster. She gasped and dropped the bottle, stumbling backward. Her skin felt like it was on fire. Her knees gave out. She fell to the ground, shaking. Her body began to change. Her senses sharpened. Every drop of water hitting the metal floor echoed loudly. She could smell the wires in the walls, feel the air moving around her like it had weight. Her hands dug into the floor, leaving dents where her fingers touched. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever. But there was more. A strange, powerful feeling rose inside her chest. Her body burned, not with pain, but something else. Desire, emotion, a pull she had never known. Her breath came in short, fast bursts. She hugged herself tightly, confused and afraid. "What is happening to me?" she whispered. Her voice echoed back to her from the empty walls. She crawled away from the table, heart pounding, blood rushing, like a drum in her ears. Her mind swirled with thoughts, memories, sensations, flashes of things she didn't understand. It was too much. Then she screamed. It was a raw, wild sound. It echoed through the halls of the old lab, breaking the silence. The lights flickered again. Somewhere deeper in the base, a machine woke up, a scanner long forgotten. It beeped softly, then sent out a signal. Far above the planet, a human satellite picked up the ping. At that same moment, Commander Jackson Reeve of the Terran Exploration Force received a strange alert in his ship. Unauthorized use of Serum X7 detected on Zinara 9, coordinates locked. He frowned. That planet was abandoned 10 years ago, he muttered. Who the hell is down there now? He turned his ship toward the dark planet. Back underground, Zinara was curled into a corner of the lab, her body shaking. Her mind was a storm of emotion. She didn't know who she was anymore. She didn't know what that serum had done to her, but she felt different, stronger, wilder, awakened, and someone was coming. She could feel it in her bones. The serum awakened. Zinara's eyes snapped open. For a moment she couldn't breathe. Her heart thundered in her chest like a war drum. The air around her felt thick, too thick. Every breath was heavy, every sound was sharp, and even the darkness seemed alive. She wasn't the same anymore. She could hear drops of water echoing from far corners of the lab, even though they were barely falling. She could see in the dark. Shapes, shadows, and movement no normal eyes could catch. Her skin tingled with energy and her thoughts spun in wild circles. A strange burning heat pulsed in her stomach, rising through her chest and neck like fire. Zinara clutched her arms tightly. Her purple skin felt too warm, almost glowing. Her fingers trembled, but not from cold. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was something else, confused, lost, and aroused. She didn't even know that word until now, but the feeling wouldn't go away. Her body ached with a strange hunger, not for food, not for water, but something deeper, something alive. The serum had awakened not just her strength, but her senses, her instincts, and desires she didn't understand. Suddenly, movement. Her ears picked up a distant thud, then a mechanical hum from outside the lab entrance. She jumped to her feet instantly, faster than she thought possible. Her chains jingled faintly, but her balance was perfect. She didn't stumble. Instead, she crouched like a wild animal, low, ready, alert. Outside, a sleek human dropship hovered, just above the jungle ruins. The ramp opened and a tall figure stepped out. He wore black combat armor with a silver emblem on the chest. Terran Exploration Force. Commander Jackson Reeve had arrived. He scanned the ruins calmly, eyes hidden behind a tactical visor. His scanner beeped as it caught traces of serum X7 energy. It was still active, fresh. The source was moving, and it wasn't human. "Looks like someone drank the wrong bottle," he muttered, checking his pulse rifle. Inside the lab, Zinara crouched behind a cracked control console. She could feel him. Not just hear his steps or sense the heat of his body, but feel his presence. It was like her mind could reach out and touch the world now. Everything had meaning. Vibration, sound, scent. And this human. He smelled different. Strong. Solid. But not dangerous. Not yet. She peeked around the edge. He was walking slowly, gun lowered, scanning the area like a predator. But careful. Not cruel. Her pulse quickened. She didn't know why she stared so long. Her breathing grew, shallow. Her hands pressed into the cold floor as the heat inside her grew stronger again. She had to get out. Now. Zinara darted from the console and dashed into the next hallway. Her movement was fast, too fast. Her feet barely touched the ground. Lights flickered above her as she ran, and old alarms began to wake. Doors hissed open automatically as if the lab itself sensed her power. Jackson's visor caught a blur of motion. He turned. Subject is mobile, still alive, and mutated. He chased her. Zinara didn't know where she was going. Just away. But even as she ran, her legs moved with grace and power. Her feet made no sound. She was learning her new body with every step. She leaped over a broken walkway, spun around a wall, and landed silently inside a broken medical bay. There, she collapsed to the floor, gasping. Not from fear, from confusion. Her body burned. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears. Her skin was too sensitive, and her thoughts were not her own. The serum wasn't just changing her body, it was touching her mind. She whispered, "Why is this happening to me?" Suddenly, a voice echoed through the hallway. "I know you're scared," the human said. "I'm not here to hurt you, but whatever you drank, it's not safe." Zinara looked up slowly. His voice, it calmed her. Deep, steady, honest. No threat. No command. Just concern. That was new. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not as a slave. Not as a thing. But as a person. Still, she didn't answer. Couldn't. Her body was trembling, not from fear, but from something much harder to control. Something that made her want to move closer. To trust. To hide in his warmth. She backed against the wall instead, blinking fast. He stopped just outside the door. "I can help," Jackson said, slowly lowering his weapon. But you need to trust me. And then, for the first time in her life, Zinara whispered a word. Help. Her voice was broken, soft, but it was real. Jackson blinked in surprise. The serum hadn't just changed her. It had awakened something deep inside her, something no one had ever seen. Her voice, her will, her true self. And now, it was just the beginning. The human and the hunted Zinara sat on the cold metal floor of the broken medbay, her back against the wall. Her chest rose and fell with each deep breath. The strange heat inside her was no longer wild, it now pulsed like a silent fire under her skin. She was still trembling, but not from fear. For the first time, someone had offered her help, and she had asked for it. Outside the door, the human stood still. Commander Jackson Reeve didn't rush. He waited, watching the alien girl's form. Through his visor, her glowing skin, the way her muscles twitched, the signs of the serum running through her veins. She looked fragile, but he knew she was anything but. Serum X7 wasn't made for aliens. It was made for human soldiers in war, designed to heighten aggression, increase physical strength, and amplify instincts during combat. On humans, it had limits. But in her, there were no limits. Far above the planet on an orbiting mercenary ship, a transmission crackled to life. Signal confirmed, growled a deep voice. Serum has been activated, target located. 3 armored alien mercs stood around a holomap. One of them, the leader called Varax, pointed to the red blinking dot on the planet. That serum is worth more than a starship fleet, he growled. The girl is the key, dead or alive. The hunt had begun. Back in the ruins, Jackson finally stepped inside the med bay. He lowered his rifle and removed his helmet. His face was rugged with tired eyes and a strong jaw. He looked like a man who had seen too much war. Zinara watched him silently. Her eyes narrowed, body tense, but her instincts whispered that he meant no harm. Jackson knelt slowly, hands open. I know what's happening to you, he said softly. That stuff you drank, it wasn't made for someone like you. She looked down, whispering. It hurts, inside. He nodded. I believe you, but it's not just pain, is it? You feel everything stronger now. Light, sound, emotion, even touch. She froze. How did he know? He reached into his bag and pulled out a small device. This helps stabilize the reaction. I've seen others go through it, humans. It won't stop it, but it can slow it down. Give you time. Zinara hesitated. No one had ever offered her anything. Not food, not safety, not kindness. Now this stranger offered her time. She reached out slowly. Her fingers brushed his. A soft shock passed between them like static. Both paused. She looked at him, eyes glowing faintly. Who are you? Just a man who didn't want to leave anyone behind, he replied. My name's Jackson. Zinara held the device close, feeling the hum of energy inside. She didn't understand how it worked, but her body seemed to calm slightly. Her vision stopped spinning. But then, a scream of warning echoed in her mind. Not a voice, not a sound, a feeling. Her senses flared wildly. Her head snapped toward the ceiling. Something was falling. Fast. She grabbed Jackson by the arm and pulled him down. Just in time as the ceiling above them exploded, a massive metal claw smashed through the concrete. The walls shook as a heavy object crashed through, sending fire and dust in every direction. Zinara rolled with instinct, dragging Jackson behind cover. Her body moved with speed she didn't recognize, fast, fluid, almost like a weapon. 3 tall, armored mercs dropped through the hole, their glowing red, visors searching. One held a scanner. It was beeping fast. There, one shouted. Serum signature confirmed, she's here. Zinara's eyes went wide. They weren't after Jackson. They were after her. She grabbed a broken pipe from the floor and stood, panting. Her legs were ready. Her heart was fire. The serum responded to danger like a wild animal, and now it surged through her like lightning. Jackson stood behind her. "Zinara, don't—" Too late. She moved like a shadow. In a blink, she was in front of the first merc, slamming the pipe into his face. His visor cracked as he was thrown backward into the wall. The second raised his blaster, but she ducked, slid beneath him and kicked his legs out. His armor hit the floor hard. The third merc aimed at Jackson. Zinara roared and leapt, her body a blur of motion. She hit him mid-air and sent him crashing through the wall into another room. Silence. Then, she dropped the pipe. Her body shook again, not from fear, not from exhaustion, but from raw, pulsing energy that was now part of her soul. Jackson stood slowly, eyes wide. He had never seen anything like that. "You're not a soldier," he whispered. Zinara looked at him. "No," she said, "but I'm not weak anymore." Outside, more merc ships entered the planet's orbit. More were coming. And the girl they were hunting was no longer just a victim. She was becoming something else. The alien mercs arrive. The jungle outside the ruined city trembled. Ships roared through the stormy clouds above Zinara 9, their red engines glowing like angry eyes. Heavy black dropships broke through the atmosphere, each marked with the skull emblem of the Vorkson Hunters, a ruthless alien mercenary guild known for killing without question and selling anything, or anyone, for profit. Their target: this time. Not a weapon, not a machine, but Zinara, the alien slave girl who had drunk a forbidden human military serum and become something dangerous. Inside the ruins, Zinara sat on the ground beside a small fire. Her chest rose and fell slowly. Her body still shook from the earlier fight. Her eyes glowed dim in the flickering light. Jackson, the human soldier who had come to find the serum, was now her only ally. He watched her in silence, sitting across from her. He had cleaned her wounds, wrapped her hand in a cloth, and given her half of his food ration. She hadn't said much, but she hadn't run either. For Zinara, trust had never been an option. But Jackson, he didn't look at her like a tool, not like the slave masters, not like a monster. "More are coming," she whispered. Jackson looked up. "How do you know?" She pointed to her head. "I can feel them, the serum." It made my mind louder. Jackson stared at her. "You're sensing them?" Zinara nodded slowly. "They want me. They know I changed. They want to take me. Use me." Outside, distant roars filled the sky. Dropships touched down in the broken jungle. Mercenaries, tall, brutal creatures in red and black armor, marched through the trees. One of them, Vrax, the squad leader, activated his communicator. "Target is inside the ruins. Human contact confirmed. Capture both. Kill only if necessary." He sniffed the air and smiled. "She smells like power." Back inside, Zinara suddenly stood up. Her ears twitched, her body tightened. "They're close," she whispered. "How many?" Jackson asked, checking his weapon. "Too many." Jackson tossed her a small blaster. "You ever use one of these?" Zinara caught it, studied the grip, and nodded. "No, but I learn fast." They moved through the broken halls of the ancient lab, stepping carefully over rubble and fallen machines. Zinara's glowing eyes scanned the shadows, her breathing calm but sharp. Suddenly, her body jerked. "Trap!" she hissed. She dove, grabbing Jackson and throwing him behind a collapsed column. A grenade bounced nearby and exploded. Dust, fire, and steel blasted into the air. Mercenaries charged into the lab from 3 different openings. Their guns blazed. Zinara rolled into cover and returned fire, her arms steady, her aim shockingly accurate. Jackson fired too, shouting, "They're cutting us off." Zinara's vision shifted. Her serum-enhanced brain lit up with strategy, angles, movement. She wasn't just faster. She was smarter in the heat of battle. She whispered, "Split them." She bolted from cover, drawing fire, jumping through. Narrow gaps in the walls. 2 mercs chased her just as she planned. She led them into a collapsed section of the base. She waited, hiding behind a pillar. As one merc passed, she struck with a broken pipe. His helmet shattered, and he collapsed instantly. The second swung his blaster at her, but she grabbed the barrel, twisted, and used his own gun to fire through. His chest, the blast echoed. She stood over the smoking body, panting, covered in ash and blood. The serum inside her burned hotter with every heartbeat, but she was still in control. Barely. Back with Jackson, 2 more mercs had him pinned. He fired wildly, trying to hold them back. Then suddenly, one of the mercs was yanked into the darkness. With a scream, "Zinara!" She tore through the wall and tackled the second one, slamming him into the ground with inhuman strength. Jackson stared at her. She was breathing hard, her lips were trembling. Her body glowed faintly, sweat running down her temples. Her eyes met his. "I didn't want this," she said. "But I won't let them take me again." He nodded. "You're not alone anymore," he said. "We fight together." Just then, a deep, robotic voice echoed through the building. "Zinara, of Zilara, you have been marked. Surrender now, or we will burn this entire city to the ground." The voice came from a hovering drone just outside the lab. Zinara clenched her fists. Let them try. High above in the Vorkson command ship, Vrax watched the feed with a grin. "She fights like a beast," he said. "Good. I want her alive. I want to sell her piece by piece if I have to." One of his lieutenants whispered. "And the human?" Vrax laughed. "Kill him slow. Let her watch." But what none of them knew was that Zinara wasn't just a girl anymore. She wasn't just a slave. She wasn't even just a weapon. She was something new, something the galaxy had never seen. And the fire inside her was only just beginning. Her power explodes. The ruins shook with thunder. Zinara stood under a broken archway, eyes glowing like fire. Her body rose and fell with deep burning breaths. Her hands were clenched, her fingertips glowing faintly with energy. The strange serum inside her had reached a boiling point. She could feel it now. It wasn't just running through her blood, it was becoming her. Behind her, Jackson was setting explosive charges. "If they push us back to this point, we blow the tunnel," he said, sweat running down his face. Zinara barely heard him. Her mind was spinning. The fire inside her chest was growing stronger with each second. Her muscles twitched. Her skin felt alive. Too alive. "They're close," she whispered. Just then, the walls cracked. A grenade rolled into the room. Zinara moved so fast, the motion was just a blur. She grabbed Jackson and threw him behind a support beam, just before the blast hit. The explosion roared through the hallway, but Zinara walked through the smoke, untouched. Her eyes blazed. Her body stood tall. The serum had pushed past its limit, and now it was unleashed. The mercenaries stepped back as she appeared in the smoke, glowing, silent, dangerous. "What the hell?" one gasped, lifting his blaster. Too late. Zinara was already moving. She charged like a storm, grabbing the first merc and slamming him into the wall with such force that the metal dented. She spun, disarmed the second with a twist of his wrist, and kicked him across the room. Blasters fired. She dodged effortlessly, dancing through bullets like wind. Jackson stood frozen behind cover, watching her. "She's faster than human," he muttered. "She's faster than anything." Zinara didn't feel like herself anymore. She felt like light, like motion, like fire. But she wasn't lost. Not yet. A third merc lunged at her with a blade. She caught it barehanded. The metal cut her palm, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she bent the blade with her fingers and stared into the alien's eyes. "I am not your property," she growled, and then she punched him so hard he flew across the room and didn't move again. In the control room of the merc ship, Vrax watched the battle feed. "She's mutating," he said, his voice low. "The serum has bonded. She's something else now." His second-in-command frowned. "Should we pull back?" Vrax laughed. "Pull back? No. We push harder. I want to see how far she can go before she burns." Back in the ruins, Zinara fell to her knees. Her head pounded. Her body glowed too brightly. "Now, Her skin was hot to the touch, her breath sharp. Jackson rushed to her side. "Zinara, can you hear me?" She nodded slowly, her voice shaking. "I can't hold it. It's too much. I'm losing control." Jackson pulled a small injector from his belt. This might calm the serum, at least for a while. She looked at the needle, then at him. "I trust you," she said softly. He pressed the injector to her neck. A sharp hiss and her body tensed, then slowly began to calm. The glow faded slightly. Her breathing slowed. Her eyes blinked rapidly, returning to normal. She fell forward into Jackson's arms. He caught her, holding her gently. "You're okay," he whispered. Zinara closed her eyes for a moment. "Why are you helping me?" Jackson smiled sadly. "Because someone should have helped you long ago." Far down the hall, more footsteps echoed. "They're regrouping," Jackson said. "We need to move." Zinara nodded, rising again. Weaker, but still ready. They moved through the ruins together, deeper into the underground. They passed an old cryo chamber, a dusty mirror. Zinara caught her reflection and stopped. Her face looked different, older, sharper, stronger. "I'm not the girl I was before," she whispered. Jackson stood beside her. "No, you're more." Suddenly, a deep voice echoed through the chamber. "You've seen what you can do," Vrax said through a speaker. "But do you even know what you are now?" Zinara looked up. "You are not free. You are a weapon. You are mine." Her fists clenched. "No," she said coldly. "I was yours, not anymore." Then the walls exploded again. A new wave of mercs stormed through, heavier armor, stronger weapons. Zinara and Jackson ducked for cover. She looked at him. "Stay behind me." He shook his head. "No, we stand together." Zinara's body began to glow again. Not wildly this time, but controlled. Her voice was calm. "Then we end this." The serum's curse. The jungle ruins were quiet again. Too quiet. After the battle, smoke hung in the air like a thick curtain. Bodies of fallen mercenaries lay broken across the stone floor. The old lab's walls were cracked. Fires flickered in, corners where sparks met fuel. Zinara sat against a wall, her arms around her knees, breathing slowly. But inside, she was breaking. Not her bones, not her will, her mind. The serum was no longer just burning through her blood. It was crawling into her thoughts. Every heartbeat echoed louder, every light felt brighter. Every memory from her past, her pain, her fear, her chains, kept flashing in front of her eyes like ghosts. She squeezed her eyes shut. "Make it stop." Jackson knelt beside her, scanning her vitals with his wrist device. "She's overheating," he muttered. "Heart rate, unstable. Brain waves, off the charts." He pulled out another stabilizer, but it was his last one. He hesitated. Giving it might calm her, but it wouldn't fix the real problem. Zinara opened her eyes. They glowed brighter than before, too bright. Her pupils had vanished into white. "I can hear everything," she whispered. "Every sound, every thought, even yours." Jackson froze. "You can read my thoughts?" She nodded slowly, eyes full of fear. "Not words, but feelings. You're scared." He looked down. "Not of you," he said. "Of what's happening to you." Zinara's voice cracked. "I don't want to be a monster." "You're not," Jackson said. "You're still you." "No," she whispered. "I'm something else now. I feel everything, but I don't feel like me." She reached up and touched her face. "Who am I becoming?" Far above, in the orbiting command ship, Vrax watched her through a surveillance drone. "She's destabilizing," he muttered. "The serum is eating her from the inside. Soon she'll lose control completely." His second-in-command asked, "Should we move in now?" Vrax smirked. No. Let her destroy herself. We'll pick up the pieces. Back in the ruins, Jackson tapped his comms. Command, this is Reeve. We need evac and medtech now. The subject is not hostile, but she's critical. A voice replied coldly. Negative. Subject is classified as volatile. You are ordered to neutralize. Jackson's jaw tightened. I won't do that. Then you'll be left behind. The call ended. He looked at Zinara. She was holding her head now, shaking. Jackson, she whispered. What, if I hurt you? You haven't, he said firmly, but I could. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. I don't care. Suddenly, Zinara screamed. Not in pain, but in rage. Her hands clutched her head, her body arched, and a shockwave burst out from her chest. A pulse of raw energy that cracked the ground and shattered the nearby wall. Jackson was thrown backward. Zinara rose slowly, her eyes white, her body glowing, her feet lifting an inch off the ground. Zinara, Jackson called, coughing through dust. Listen to me. Fight it. But she wasn't responding. Inside her mind, she stood alone in a dark space. Around her were images, her past, her chains, her pain. The faces of her old masters, the slap of whips, the screams of other slaves, all twisted, all burning, and, at the center, a mirror. She walked toward it. Inside it, she saw herself, but not as she was. This version of Zinara was taller, darker, eyes full of fire, a weapon. Is this me now? She whispered. The mirror, Zinara smiled. This is who the serum wants you to be. Zinara touched the glass. I don't want to be that. You already are. Suddenly, a second reflection appeared, Jackson standing beside her. He looked at her not with fear, but with kindness. The fire inside her cracked. Zinara clenched her fists. No, she growled. I choose who I am. She punched the mirror. It shattered. Outside, Zinara's body dropped to the ground, gasping. The white glow faded. Her real eyes returned, blue, scared but alive. Jackson rushed to her, holding her in his arms. She blinked up at him, weak but conscious. I'm still here, she whispered. He smiled. Yeah, you are. But the moment of peace didn't last. Above them, a huge shadow moved across the sky. Vrax's personal dropship descended, larger than the others. It landed with a crash, sending dirt flying. The ship doors opened. Vrax stepped out, towering over both of them, armored from head to toe. I gave you a chance, he said, looking at Zinara. You could have been worth millions. Now I'll just take what's left of you. Zinara stood slowly, still shaking. Her voice was quiet. You want to use me like they did? Vrax laughed. Of course. You're just a broken thing with sharp teeth. Jackson stepped in front of her, raising his rifle. You'll have to go through me. Vrax grinned. I was hoping you'd say that. The final battle was coming, but Zinara was done running. No more chains. No more fear. Even if the serum destroyed her tomorrow, tonight, she would fight. For her life, for her freedom, for the human who never looked at her like a weapon. She chose him. The wind howled over the broken jungle ruins. Lightning flashed above Zinara 9. Rain began to fall again, heavy, loud, soaking the battlefield. Fire flickered where trees had burned. Smoke curled around steel and stone. In the middle of it all stood Zinara, barefoot, trembling, glowing faintly from within. Her clothes were torn, her body bruised, but her eyes were strong. She was done running. She was no longer a slave. She was no longer afraid. And beside her stood Jackson Reeve, rifle in hand, breathing hard but ready. A soldier of earth, a man of duty. But now, something more. A protector. Together, they faced the monster stepping out of the ship. Vrax, 8 feet tall, armor covered in black spikes, glowing red eyes behind a metal mask. He walked toward them like a machine, his heavy boots crushing broken stone. I gave you a future, he growled at Zinara. You threw it away. Zinara's voice was steady. You never gave me anything. You only tried to sell me. You could have ruled worlds. I'd rather be free. Vrax raised a massive plasma axe. Then die with your pet human. He charged. Jackson fired first, blast after blast, but the plasma shots bounced off Vrax's shield. Zinara moved. Too, dodging, spinning, fast like lightning. She jumped onto a stone column and launched herself into the air. Her fist struck Vrax's chest, hard. The blow cracked his shield, but didn't stop him. He swung the axe, catching Zinara's leg. She cried out and hit the ground, rolling. Jackson rushed forward, tackling Vrax from behind. The two crashed into a pillar, sparks flying. Vrax elbowed him back and slammed Jackson into the wall. Zinara screamed, seeing blood. The serum inside. Her flared again. Her hands glowed white. Her heart thundered. But this time, she was not losing control. This time she commanded it. She stood tall even with her leg bleeding and looked Vrax in the eyes. You tried to break me, she said. You made me believe I was nothing. She stepped forward. But she glanced at Jackson, who was struggling to stand. He reminded me I was someone. Vrax lifted the axe again. Zinara didn't move. Instead, she opened her arms and let the serum's full power rise. Light exploded from her body, pure, burning light. A shockwave blasted across the ruins, flattening trees and flipping debris. Vrax was thrown back, crashing into his ship. The axe slipped from his hands. Zinara fell to her knees, the glow fading. Blood ran down her arm. Her lips quivered. Her heartbeat slowed. Zinara. Jackson crawled to her, catching her as she collapsed into his arms. I'm sorry, she whispered. No. You saved us. You saved yourself. Her eyes fluttered. It's too much. I can't hold it anymore. Jackson looked at his wrist device. Her body was shutting down. The serum had pushed her too far. One more hour, and she would burn out from the inside. Unless... He stared at his emergency med kit. One injection. An antidote, unstable, untested. It might save her or kill her faster, but doing nothing meant death. He looked at her, shaking. Do you trust me? Zinara smiled weakly. Always. He pressed the injector to her neck. A soft hiss. Then, silence. Nothing happened. Her breathing stopped. Jackson held her close. No, don't. Then she gasped. Her body jolted. Her hands gripped his arms. She opened her eyes. Blue. Clear. Calm. The glow was gone. The serum was quiet. She was still alive. Alive and free. Days later, the Terran ship hovered over the jungle, preparing for departure. Medical teams had patched Zinara's wounds. She now stood in a clean cloak, her hair brushed, her eyes bright. She stared at the world below her, Zilara 9, her prison, her nightmare. But not anymore. Jackson walked beside her. They say Earth is different, she said. Softly, he smiled. No chains, no markets, just sky, mountains, oceans, freedom. She turned to him. Why did you save me? He shrugged. I didn't save you, you saved yourself. I just reminded you you're not alone. She paused, then stepped closer. Don't want to be alone anymore, she said. Not if you're there. Jackson nodded. Then come with me. She looked at his hand, then took it. As the ship lifted into the clouds, Zinara looked out the window. The jungle shrank behind her. The fire, the ruins, the chains. All of it vanished into the storm. A new life was waiting. And she had chosen it. Not as a slave, not as a weapon, but as herself.